Welcome back to the Frontline Fantasy Football Podcast. This is your host, Jason Cameron, and I'm joined only today by Seth, the producer, the eyes and ears Hansen.
What's up?
Not much. This may be one of the most awkward podcasts you ever watch, because normally we have 3 co-hosts and we have none right now. So
yeah,
that's why I'm wearing the all black. It's just going to be that type of podcast.
Kind of a dark day.
Dark day. Indeed. So let's start out with injuries. Speaking of dark days, it was a dark day for the Giants last Sunday. They had 4 wide receivers go down. Dwayne Harris, broken foot. He was mostly a kick returner before. Sterling Shepard, sprained ankle. Could possibly be out 2 weeks. Maybe not. Might play this next game. I would highly doubt it. Brandon Marshall sprained his ankle but decided to go forward and get season-ending surgery. And then the biggest injury for the Giants is, of course, Odell Beckham Jr. with a fractured ankle. Out for the season. I know that's going to kill some of your fantasy teams. Or, I mean, not some. Anybody who owned Odell Beckham Jr., it's your season's over. I'm sorry. It's over. Best player. So, the backup, if you're looking for somebody to pick up, the backup for the Giants is indeed Roger Lewis. And Tavares King was also signed off the practice squad. So take a look at those two.
Who are those guys?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, Seth. Practice squad was all you needed to hear. So, and not to mention, they play the Broncos this week. So even if Brandon Marshall, Sterling Shepard, and Dwayne Harris were unplayable, Dwayne Harris was unplayable anyway, but Brandon Marshall would have been unplayable this week. So Roger Lewis and Tavares King are definitely unplayable. And then after they play the Broncos, they step up and they go and play the Seahawks. So
it's going to be brutal.
Yeah. So if you could wait a couple weeks to pick them up. They're not going to do anything. And most likely if somebody picked them up already, they're going to drop them. Next injury we have, we're going to move away from the Giants and their 4 injuries. Oh, also to mention with the Giants, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is going to be suspended for a little bit. Him and the coach got in an argument on the game, came to practice today. This is Wednesday, October 11th, and got in another argument with the coach and decided to leave practice, so they're going to suspend him. So more problems for the 0-5 Giants. I know this injury is near and dear to Seth's heart, and that's Sam Bradford. Knee injury. Looked terrible. I think they came back and played him a little too soon, and then Case Keenum had to finish it out. So.
I didn't watch, but one of my buddies was telling me that apparently like he was just falling over after nearly no contact. So it just makes me. I don't put that on him. I just wonder why the Vikings staff wasn't like, this guy's clearly not ready. Like they had like 6 yards in the first quarter, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he just wasn't up to game speed at all.
No, not even close.
Like what?
And you have a decent backup too, Case Keenum.
Yeah, he'd started 3 games, so I don't understand. I mean, I was sweating bullets until the end there, and I mean, this week was trash for me in fantasy, so I just needed at least for the Vikings to win. I mean, the Bears are terrible.
Well, they did that 20-17. Yeah, I mean,
it was 3-2 at one point.
Yes, I saw that. And, I mean, you're going against a rookie quarterback who got his first start on the primetime Monday night game. So
Jeez.
I can't believe it was even that close. Well, I can. I mean, Sam Bradford looked terrible. But
trash.
So, obviously, that downgrades Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph finally caught a touchdown because Sam Bradford was in, but now he's going to be worth nothing because I assume Sam Bradford is going to be gone for at least 3 more weeks. So
I don't even know if he'll come back.
Yeah.
They say Teddy's getting healthy.
Yeah,
so
they're
Teddy
going to
might be a realistic backup for. I mean, I don't even know. Maybe Keenum and Teddy battle it out, but I don't know.
I would bet Keenum starts over.
I would hope
Teddy.
so. I mean, he's looked pretty darn good.
And he's been playing. Bridgewater hasn't played in a year, 2 years almost, or a year and a half.
Year and a half, yeah.
More accurate statement. Travis Kelce, next injury, concussion. Went up for a catch, kind of got hit low, and his neck snapped back, smacked the ground. He actually came back in, but eventually left and is he hasn't been practicing this as of Wednesday. So you have to look out for that. Probably he's going to play, but just a injury of note. Number 7, Bilal Powell. I actually had him on my team, played him. He ended up with 3.3 points, which is definitely not what I was expecting, because when he starts, he averages over 100 yards, 30 yards receiving, actually gets fantasy points. He has a calf injury, so Elijah McGuire is the next man up. He's actually started out as the third-string running back, and now I don't think he's going to be the starter because it looks like Matt Forte is coming back from his turf toe injury, but Elijah McGuire is definitely the person I want. And then the last injury I'm going to talk about is Rob Kelly. He had an ankle injury a couple weeks ago. It's kind of been bothering him, looking like he was going to play this week against the Niners, and now have a quote. It's a long shot for him to play against the Niners. Next, we'll move into news. First news of note. Yeah, I screwed that up. Anyway,
can I throw a curveball at you?
Go for it.
So this isn't fantasy related, but it kind of brings up a topic that I think we've actually talked about this a couple times on the show. The U.S. missed out on the World Cup yesterday, and it just kind of reaffirms that not nobody, very few people in the country actually care about soccer. So my question is, do you think that's just because we have so many other sports that all of these athletes can go into and would rather play than soccer? Because like in almost every other country, everybody loves soccer. It's like their national sport. But for us, it's like an afterthought. So like, do you think if the NBA wasn't as big as it is, or if basketball as a sport in general wasn't such a big deal, that we could actually be good at soccer? Because it never has made sense to me, because like we're really, really good at almost all sports we're in, but in soccer we're kind of a joke.
Yeah, I think kind of like you said, just we have athletes who like to play in basketball and football, and those are more entertaining to watch, and we love to be entertained. And I think like a basketball game, scoring 100 points, 190 game is obviously going to be more exciting than 1-0.
Soccer's defensive a lot. It is tough to watch, but it's going to be really weird watching it, because I'll still watch the World Cup. I like watching the World Cup, and it's going to be really weird without like the U.S. represented since the 80s.
Right. Because they lost to Trinidad and Tobago. What I heard is the size of New Hampshire.
Islands, I have no idea.
It's incredibly tiny. It's embarrassing for the U.S., but yeah, and I think our athletes, I think we have, I don't want to say better athletes, but I kind of do, because I think basketball takes a heck of a lot more skill than soccer. If you watch any video of like Messi coming in and trying, no, it wasn't. It was the other guy for Brazil. He just got traded to PSG. Killing me.
Neymar?
Yes, no. Neymar. If you watch Neymar try and take a couple pitches, he looks like he's never played a sport in his life.
I will also say, to that point, I think that a lot of players who have like a lot of raw athletic talent, where in other countries they would be like, okay, soccer, like that's it. I love soccer. Where we have, like you said, basketball, football, where you can kind of shine more athletically. So I feel like a lot of people that would have gone into soccer and could have been like incredible players just don't even care. And we collectively as a country don't care at all. It's just always boggled my mind.
It's not the quote unquote cool thing to do, is go play soccer. That's kind of like you play when you're a little kid, and then once you're old enough to play basketball and football, you move on to those.
And then you forget about it.
Yep, exactly. So after that little tangent, we'll go back to the news. Vikings, Michael Floyd has been activated. He actually played last game, 1 reception, 19 yards. Not worth a pickup, just kind of.
Are you kidding me?
Worth noting.
He's money.
He's money. 1 for 19 is money.
Yep.
Okay. Next news item. Adrian Peterson traded to the Cardinals. Seth, your boy AP. Are you excited about this move?
No, he's going to be absolute trash.
Is that why you didn't use your number 1 waiver spot on him?
No, I don't. That's news to me, Jason, that I even have the number 1 waiver spot. That should show you how closely I've been watching my fantasy this week. No, I from all the people that I've talked to, apparently Arizona's offensive line is nothing to write home about, and it's just going to be the Vikings last year. I have no expectations.
The Vikings
for him.
last year or AP's last year?
Well, the Vikings' offensive line is, from what I've heard, is comparable to Arizona's offensive line. So he's not going to be able to do anything. I think this is a last-ditch effort.
That's kind of what I tweeted out. I tweeted out immediately, and you can find that on Frontline FF, that he's not going to really do any better than Chris Johnson. He's going to get 12,
and they dropped Chris Johnson, right?
Yep. 12 to 15 carries, probably 40 yards. It's not going to look pretty. Maybe an occasional touchdown. I mean, I would rank him as a running back 4. I haven't updated my rankings since that trade, but I don't think he'll even make my top 100 players this week.
It just kind of makes me, because like I am a huge Minnesota fan and I've always loved watching AP. It kind of makes me sad a little bit. It's kind of that classic argument, like when does a player retire? And there's like a couple different schools of thought, but I think he's making it look like he should have retired 2 years ago, and then he would have retired an absolute champ. Now you could say that a lot of the reason why he hasn't been successful is like the teams he's been on, but like it's just tough to watch these like legendary players just like slowly start to suck.
Yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger.
I mean, he's that classic, what is he, 34?
Yeah, I mean, he's already lasted in the league much, much longer than the average running back, but it's just really hard to see somebody who has been so dynamic.
Really, has he lasted that much longer? Because
That's
sat
true.
out
He has
2
had
years.
a ton.
So
He's
32
had like,
is the normal.
He's had the equivalent of like 3 full years during his career not playing, something like that.
Yeah, so
that's a good point.
Honestly, he's a 31-year-old running back if we're taking those 3 years out.
Still old.
And I think the most interesting piece of news this week is Dolphins O-line coach resigns due to being taped by a stripper snorting cocaine.
Jeez.
Did you see this, Seth?
I did see that.
Yes, the stripper was mad that everybody was giving her crap because she thought that it doesn't matter that she videotaped him, which I agree. It's his own dumb fault. He should know better.
Right.
But the interesting thing that I heard is he's also the Dolphins run coordinator, so that affects Jay Ajayi. So I would kind of, I don't want to say trade him because, I mean, he's still going to get 20-plus carries, but definitely downgrades him from that running back 1 he's supposed to be. He hasn't been this year, but definitely downgrades him. So also to mention teams with a bye week this week: Bengals, Seahawks, Bills, Cowboys. Players of note that are out: A.J. Green, Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, LaShawn McCoy, Tyrod Taylor, for the Cowboys, Zeke, Dak, and Dez Bryant. Definitely tweet at us if you have questions about bye week fill-ins. Also go to frontlinefantasyfootball.com, where we have a waiver section where you can pick up solid players or players that we think are worthwhile. We'll move on to a section called Diamonds in the Rough. Seth, do you have any music for this?
Let me get something quick for you.
So Diamonds in the Rough, we're going to start out. Basically, it's going to be players that aren't as well known. I mean, you're obviously going to know some of them, but aren't as well known that I think have been performing well and could be worth a pickup. First one up is David Njoku. Yes, tight end.
Fun last name.
Yeah, Njoku. How do you think you spell that real quick, Seth?
I just looked at it, so it's ruined for me. Sorry about it.
Wow, ruined my segment. All right, so he has 3 touchdowns in 5 games this year, 3 in the last 4. He's currently the 8th ranked tight end overall, but he's extremely touchdown dependent. In the games where he hasn't scored a touchdown, that's game 1 and game 3, I believe, he had 1.2 and 2-point-something points. So he's still a better throw in the dart, I think, than Jack Doyle or Austin Hooper at the moment, who've just been burning people left and right. And then I think the QB change that also should have been part of the news, I guess. Kevin Hogan from Stanford takes over for Deshaun Kaiser, which is, I don't get it. I mean, you spent a 2nd or 3rd round pick on Kaiser, and you're going to bench him now, but whatever. I'm not.
Where did he play in college?
Kaiser?
Yeah.
Notre Dame. Yep.
Really?
You're looking at, yeah.
How many years did he play? Because
he left early.
Whenever I think about Notre Dame, I just think about like Everett Golson.
Who
played at Florida State, right? And then he transferred. Did he play right after this guy? Because I guess I don't know a lot about Notre Dame football.
Yeah, he did. It was some dude who looked really promising at Notre Dame, injured his injured his knee and then went to Florida and played or something like that. He's somewhere else right now. But
Okay.
anyway, he played after that guy. I think he only stayed for 3 years.
So is he good?
Deshaun Kaiser?
Yeah. I mean, did he deserve to be a
doesn't
second round pick?
No, it was a really weak draft
It was
class.
reaching.
I mean,
okay.
the past two have been. I mean, Jared Goff shouldn't have been taken number 1 pick overall. Mitch Trubisky shouldn't have been taken as the number 2 pick overall.
Gotcha.
Not in the same draft class, I know. But so up next, Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He has at least 4 catches in every game he's played this year. That would be 2 games. He was suspended for the first 3 PEDs. And then he averages the most targets on the team. That's 9 a game. So that's a ton of targets, especially for a tight end, which is a weak position. Definitely pick him up. Deserves to be played. Especially since Tyler Eifert just came out. It's going to need season-ending back surgery.
Jeez.
As well as Charles Clay just got injured and is going to be sitting out for 3 weeks. So tight ends are very important this year. Devontae Adams, my next one, averaging 10.5 fantasy points per game. In the last 4 games, he has 4 receiving touchdowns. And then in the last 4 games, he has at least 60 yards receiving or a touchdown. So he's been incredibly consistent. The number 2 receiver on Aaron Rodgers-led team is obviously going to be worth something.
Does he keep it up?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You think so? So you think by the end of the year he'll be averaging around that?
Devontae Adams? Of
Yeah.
course. Of
Because
course.
he's had some big games.
Last year,
He also has Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, last year he had 12 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards, and I don't see why he's going to do this again. I mean, they've had that. The Packers have had 2 receivers over 1,000 yards or close to it for the past 5 years. I mean, with Jordy and Randall Cobb has normally been the guy.
Who at the end of the year who has a higher average, Jordy or Adams?
Well, Jordy by far.
You think so?
Jordy's had multiple games this year with 2 touchdowns. So Adams doesn't always get those touchdowns. So Jordy will obviously be. Not obviously, but I believe he will be, and you should be happy about that, Seth, because he's on your team.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a lot of yards. It's a touchdown.
Doesn't need yards when he gets touchdowns. Number 4, Nelson Aguilar. In 4 out of 5 weeks, he has at least 7.9 fantasy points. So pretty consistent. Averages 12 a game. I mean, that's going to be inflated by the 2 big games he had. And then ranks 28th and then for wide receivers this year. Technically 27th now that Odell Beckham Jr. is out. So if you want to get super technical. My next one is Will Fuller the 5th. I believe that's what the V means.
Wow, that's awesome.
That would be a hectic family reunion.
Dang, he has 4 TDs in the last 2 games.
6 catches, 92 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Whoa.
I
need to pick him up.
Yeah, somebody asked me if they should start Will Fuller last week, and I said, no, there's no way he can keep this up. And he goes out and he does the exact same
He
stat
probably
line.
will have like negative points this week.
Yeah, I would expect a lot of people to start him this week, and he will not produce. I wouldn't say negative, but I'm saying like 20 yards receiving. I might end up starting him anyway. And then my final diamond in the rough is Andre Ellington, averaging 8.1 fantasy points over the last 3 games. He's second on the team in targets besides Fitz, and they're on a pass-first offense, so I believe he will still see the same production with AP. I think, especially this next game, AP is not going to play a ton.
I forgot that he was still a thing. I remember a few years back when there was who were their running backs? It was him.
Beanie Fowler. Beanie Wells.
Didn't they have, at one point in time, like this weird, awkward 3-headed monster of running backs? I didn't even realize that he was still there.
I thought Beanie Wells was one from Ohio State, and then Ellington, and then Chris Johnson was probably there. I'm probably getting a little mixed up.
And then David Johnson just asserted himself, but
taking over the role.
Yeah.
It's
a massive drop-off.
I don't think you have to worry about AP with Andre Ellington because, first of all, AP is not going to play a ton of snaps in these first couple of games. Ellington's the pass-only back, and the Cardinals honestly throw a lot. So if AP is going to be in the game, he's gonna run the ball. So I'd see AP being in for maybe 20 snaps total.
What's the Cardinals' record currently?
Oh boy, you're putting me on the spot.
Are they decent? You don't have to give me the exact record.
Like 2 or 3 wins.
Okay. My question was going to be, does the acquisition of AP help, hurt, or
Oh, it helps.
in the middle? Like, does it move the needle at all, or is it just?
It helps. You're still going to respect AP more than Chris Johnson or Andre Ellington running the ball or Kerwin Williams.
Right. So whether or not it's actually like a real threat, people when they hear and see him, they'll plan differently.
I would highly doubt it right off the bat. I mean, if he breaks out,
I would love to see him go nuts, but I don't.
Highly
see it.
unlikely, but I
it.
would love to see it. I mean, I
too.
didn't get him on waivers, so I wouldn't want to play against him if that happens. But then I have some honorable mentions: Alvin Kamara, Devin Funchess, Deshaun Jackson, and Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace is kind of a sleeper right now. Past 2 games, double-digit fantasy points with only yards, no touchdowns, no tutties. 11-point-something points in week 4, and then week 5 he had 13.
Weird.
All yards. Pick him up. We'll move on to the week 6 bold predictions. Let's review last week's. Week 5. Austin said Dez Bryant will score 12 or more fantasy points. That's incorrect because he only scored 11.2 fantasy points.
Oh, no.
Balil Powell will be a top 5 running back, Austin also thought, and he was incorrect. He was the 47th best back.
What did Austin say?
He thought he would be top 5. He was the 47th. Not good.
Not nearly as close as that first one.
Not good. Brandon said Isaiah Crowell will score 15 or more fantasy points. Obviously incorrect. 6.7.
Ugh.
Had one of his best games, and he only had 6.7. Isaiah Crowell should not be dropped, but you should not ask me if you want to play him or not. He does not need to be played.
So if he's not playable, why is he not droppable?
Because he has a chance. It's like Amari Cooper. He has the
Do you
potential.
just want to keep him
He's
just
a
in
starting
case?
running back, yeah. It's like Amari Cooper and Martavis Bryant. The talent is there. You just can't drop him because
I've had him before. And
they're not producing.
Not fun.
Do not play him. Do not ask me if you should play him because the answer is always going to be no. Always going to be no.
Are you like
I got
live
so many
subtweeting
questions.
somebody right now? What is this?
No.
There's a lot of anger.
This is for everybody. That there was at least 6 people that asked me, should I play blah 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 or Crowell, and I didn't even address Crowell.
He's like an afterthought.
Don't play him, please. Next one, Brandon. Second one, Eli Manning will throw for 4 touchdowns. That's incorrect. Threw for 2. May have had to do a little bit with the injuries for the receivers.
Absence, right? Who would they even? Yeah, jeez.
Well, the number 4 is in there, and they had 4 wide receivers injured, so that might be worth a half a point.
Yep. You got the number right, just the stat wrong.
Money. I went up. My first one, Austin Seferian-Jenkins will be a top 8 tight end. I was incorrect because he was the 13th best tight end. I got
an honorable mention.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I got unlucky because players like the old Iowa tight end for the 49ers ended up going off and had like 16 points or something like that. The one I actually did get.
CJ Fedorowicz?
No, he's on the Texans. It was their latest one. Jonathan would be all over this.
Ugh.
I'll
think of it. I do too, but I'll think of it.
Duke Johnson will score more fantasy points than Deshaun Kaiser, and I was correct. Duke Johnson scored 14.3 points, and since Kaiser was benched, he finished the day with 2.3 fantasy points. So,
jeez,
really correct on that one. Jonathan, he said Devontae Parker would be a top 10 receiver. He was incorrect because he was the 91st receiver in week 5 due to an ankle injury. Looks like he's going to play this week, so don't be worried. And then his second one, he was way off on this one as well. Deshaun Watson will be outside the top 15 quarterbacks. And Deshaun Watson ended up being the number 1 quarterback overall in week 5.
I like him.
He's pretty good.
I think I've really always liked him.
I
respect the crap out of him after last year, too, in college. Oh.
What, beating Alabama?
Yeah.
He's good.
That was probably my favorite championship game dating back to like Texas USC.
Oh, the Texas USC game. That was a good game.
Would have never happened had they had replay, but
Why do you say that?
Because Vince Young's knee was down
Oh, yeah.
at a crucial juncture of that game.
Yeah.
But I hate USC, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, we'll keep moving then.
Yep.
Okay, so bold predictions for this week. My first one is Pierre Garçon will be a top 12 receiver. I just don't respect the Redskins secondary. Brandon's first one, Isaiah Crowell will score a touchdown.
What is his deal with Crowell? Like, does he just
Crowell,
want to wish these things into existence?
Yes, because he's on his team, and his team is so bad because he lost David Johnson, Allen Robinson. Brandon Marshall this past week was actually a starter for him that he lost. RIP to Brandon's team. Surprisingly, though, he's
won.
3-2. Yeah.
Yeah, he's scrapped together some pretty ugly wins, but they're wins.
Pure luck. I play him this week, and I assume I'm going to score 50 points, and he'll beat me. But, yeah, Isaiah Crowell, really bold prediction. Brandon thinks he'll score a touchdown. Jonathan's first one, Jay Ajayi, will get back on track and have 100 yards and a touchdown. Doubtful.
Yeah, I was going to say, after all this crap that's happened.
Yeah, the run coordinator snorting cocaine instead of worrying about.
Watch him just go off. Maybe he just goes off.
Maybe he just needed a committed run coordinator, an offensive line coach. Game changer. First one for Austin, C.J. Anderson will be a top 4 running back. My second one, Tevin Coleman will be a top 14 running back. I
just switched him to the starting position.
There you go, that a boy playing the
Dolphins.
Dolphins
I missed him this week. I missed him this past week.
Yeah, he's been solid.
He started James White.
Sketch.
Wait 1 second. Tom Brady. I didn't even get to watch that game. I don't know why I just thought of this, but he sucked. Didn't you say last week he was the number 1 point scorer?
I was
up until last
number 3.
Number 3. Okay, well,
behind Kareem Hunt and Todd Gurley.
Tom Brady got outscored by his kicker and by one of his receivers. That is hard to do. The kicker mostly. Like Gostkowski, props to you, dude. But you have like 15 points and your quarterback has 12.4. That doesn't even make sense.
You're acting like you lost last week.
I did lose. I did lose.
Oh, so bitter Seth right here.
My team was terrible.
Shout out to Tom
Brady.
Which would mean...
But he'll be fine.
Brandon Cooks.
He'll be fine. Cooks almost outscored him too.
What do you have, 8?
Mm-hmm.
Not bad. So, Brandon's second one, my second one was Tevin Coleman will be a top 14 running back. Brandon's second one, sticking with the running backs, LaShawn will score 2 touchdowns. Jonathan's second one, Amari Cooper scores more fantasy points than Michael Crabtree. So Jonathan's definitely the most bold this week. And then Austin's second one, Mike Gillislee scores 10 plus fantasy points. What is with these guys picking players that are on their teams and just hoping that they score more points? So let's move on to one of our last sections, and that's going to be a section called Panicked, Seth.
Ooh, I like it. It's not as good as... Can you come up with a better name, though?
Than Panicked?
Yeah. It doesn't sound as strange.
They can't all be winners like Real Meal or Fake Veal or...
Mediocre Seal?
Mediocre Dinner.
Oh, right. Yep, that's true.
So... Panicked is just gonna have to do for now, Seth. Unless you have something off the top of your head.
Don't.
You put me on the spot.
I don't.
So I have 6 players that people will probably be panicked about, and I'm just gonna say what I think should happen with them. Seth, did we have a panicked sound drop?
We do. If I could find it, Jason.
Okay, so
like you're expecting me to have that.
You're the producer. Didn't have the volume up.
Panicked.
Warning. So, my first one for Panicked is Carlos Hyde. Only rushed for over 100 yards once this year. The last game he had 8 carries for 11 yards. Matt Breida has taken away some work. That's his backup if you've never heard of him. Should be picked up. And he has a nagging hip injury, which is affecting him greatly right now. Rest of the season, though, I don't care that he's struggling right now. I want Carlos Hyde. I think he's a buy low right now. Definitely go pick him up. The 49ers run the offense through their running backs, constantly throwing to them, constantly handing the ball off to them. I'm not worried. Just make sure you have Matt Breida as a backup in case something actually does happen to Carlos Hyde. My next one up for pick is Jay Ajayi, averaging 6.6 points per game. And that's most of your people's number one running backs. Only one game over 100 rushing yards, 0 touchdowns this year. And in the past 3 games, he's averaging 16 carries for 46 yards. No! And his run coordinator snorts cocaine with strippers.
You suck, you jackass.
Couldn't agree more. So I think he's going to have a more dedicated run coordinator, to say the least, a more dedicated offensive line coach. Originally, at the beginning of this podcast, I was kind of worried about it, but the more I think about it, that can only be better for Jay Ajayi. So another buy low. Pick him up. Worth it. He's going to be a stud, and I don't think you have to pay that much for Jay Ajayi. My next one up is DeMarco Murray, another number one running back for most people. Has one double-digit game this year. The rest have been below 7 points. Terrible. Hasn't had more than 14 carries in a game. Constantly dealing with hamstring issues. And I'm concerned. But I think he's a buy low in a sense, but I don't want him as my number one running back. I want him as possibly a flex play right now. I think he's a little bit of a buy low because he faced defenses like the Jaguars, the Seahawks, and the Texans. Seahawks haven't been that great against the run, neither the Jags, but they're still a legit defense. And I think that could be the reason why he's struggling. He also has a legit backup, Derrick Henry, who constantly takes away carries from him, but this past couple of weeks he hasn't. He's had around 4 to 5 carries. So really DeMarco Murray has no excuses. The Titans aren't running the ball enough. He's a buy low. I think he's a cheaper buy low than Jay Ajayi and Carlos Hyde right now. And I say go for it because, sky's the limit for him, and it's all up from here. Next one is Julio Jones, averaging 7.4 a game. Was the consensus number 4 pick overall, I believe, or number 5. Number 4 after Zeke was suspended for a little bit and then not suspended. Only has 1 game over 100 yards receiving. Currently dealing with a hip flexor, and then the Falcons' offense focuses more on Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. That's why I think Tevin Coleman's going to have a big week this week, Seth. So, obviously, you shouldn't panic. He was most likely your first pick overall. He was my first pick overall in 2 leagues. I don't even care. He's still, especially in PPR, he's still a stud. In standard leagues, you're a little worried, but you don't need to trade him. I've seen a lot of trades out there where people have been offering Julio for, I think I saw Doug Martin and Michael Crabtree, or Doug Martin, Stephon Diggs. I'm taking that trade to get Julio. I don't care about Doug Martin and Stephon Diggs. I don't think Stephon Diggs keeps this up. Went through an injury last game, but only had 1 reception for 4 yards. Looked awful. That helped contribute to your win, right, Seth? That'd be a no. Yeah, panicked.
Suck.
Number 5, Alshon Jeffrey. 0 games with 100 yards receiving this year. Was supposed to be your wide receiver number 2, averaging 7.7 points, averaging 4 catches a game. Has 2 receiving touchdowns in 5 weeks, and Carson Wentz is straight up balling, and he's doing nothing under that. Alshon, rest of the year, I don't think he's a legit option. I think flex play. Flex, not wide receiver 2, flex play at the most. I think you should be debating whether you want to play Alshon, Devontae Parker. I might even start playing Will Fuller if he keeps it up. Alshon is not somebody that you can depend on, and fantasy football is 100% about consistency, and that's not what Alshon is. So look elsewhere. If somebody sends you a trade, I mean, take it as long as they're offering decent players. And my last one, this is kind of for the people who use their number one waiver spot. My last one that I'm panicked about, Latavius Murray.
Ugh.
Use your number one waiver spot on him. A ton of people did. A ton of people were asking if they should use it. And I said, yeah.
And now McKinnon.
Why not? But McKinnon broke out. It stole the show.
He is the thorn in people's side, though. Even back in the AP days, like, he just steals so many points.
Not him in the AP days. Matt Asiata in the AP.
That's so true. Freaking Asiata. And their random...
3 carries, 3 touchdowns.
And they also had this fullback.
2 yards.
Who would just, like, run in short... It wasn't...
The Vikings?
Yeah. This is.
I know the Packers had John Kuhn.
Back. Oh, God.
Kuhn used to be that. I don't know about the Vikings. So the Vikings, I would be ticked, honestly. You save up for that number one spot, and then Latavius Murray just basically is a non-factor because McKinnon looks so good, and I would expect McKinnon to play like this the rest of the year. And maybe not that good, but I think he's going to be the number one back the rest of the year. The only glimmer of hope for those of you that picked up Latavius Murray is that he's going to be the goal line back because he's the bigger back, and McKinnon is not going to be able to punch it in from the one. So I would expect Murray to be used for that. I see you getting more of a Mike Gillislee with Latavius Murray instead of somebody that you'd actually want, somebody that actually scores points consistently. So that was the last for that section. I wanted to talk a little bit about my rankings before getting into the listener questions. So let's go to, that would have been nice if I would have prepped for this and actually had them pulled up. We'll talk about quarterbacks.
We're going to slow it down.
Get some little...
Jason's going to talk about some quarterbacks.
Get some soul in there.
Ooh, yeah. Gonna talk about the most important position, quarterback. Am I wrong? Just because I sang it doesn't make it any less wrong.
Oh, just heard a little R. Kelly in there.
Ooh, yeah. I love R. Kelly. That's actually the most fantastic compliment you've ever given me.
Seth?
Ooh.
Your off the field actions remind me of R. Kelly.
Whoa.
Oh, just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Move along.
Voice sounds like it. Okay, number one quarterback this week. Deshaun Watson, no surprise, playing the Browns.
Ooh.
I wouldn't expect anything less than 30 points this week. That's why I have him at number one.
30 points.
30.
I'm taking the under.
Really?
Yep.
Is that your first bet of the year?
My first bet of the year.
Deshaun Watson scores 30 points.
With the rate we're going at, he's going to be injured. He's going to break his leg or something.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. I just feel it.
He scored 30 on the Chiefs. I would think he could score 30 on the Browns, unless he just gets pulled out because they're just annihilating the Browns. So Deshaun Watson, my number one quarterback this week. I think a lot of people have questions about Alex Smith, and I have him ranked number 10 this week against the Steelers.
Ooh.
I've just been burned. Not me personally have been burned, but I've just watched him, and he's done absolutely nothing for years to come, or not years to come, for the previous years. He's been check down Charlie, and this year he's slinging it. And
You're just still nervous.
He's done it for 5 games. I should be on board, but I'm not. I'm not. I can't get there.
How many games do they win? Well, okay.
The Chiefs?
When's their first loss?
I mean, I would have to have the Chiefs schedule up.
Because until they lose, they're gonna be like they're chasing 17 and the Dolphins. There's no way in my mind that they go undefeated.
You've heard that. Somebody said that.
Yeah.
I have never heard that.
No, what I'm saying is that the comparison will always be made because they're the last undefeated team. They need to get to 17. They're not going to do that. But when do they lose?
They're gonna beat the Steelers this week. So pulled up their schedule. They face Steelers, Raiders, Broncos, Cowboys.
Maybe the Broncos.
Yeah.
They could run into a buzzsaw there.
I don't know. The Broncos offense, they don't put up points. And the the Chiefs' run game is still solid, and the Broncos aren't that great against the run. They're just so good against the pass. You think they're a really good defense against the run. I mean, they honestly have a pretty easy schedule. I would say, okay, so next week or this week, Steelers, then it's Raiders, Broncos, Cowboys. So Broncos or Cowboys, that could be tough. I could see them losing to the Cowboys, just back-to-back 2 tough games.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go Giants, Bills, Jets, Raiders, Chargers, Dolphins, and then they play the Broncos again. So if they make it past the Broncos and Cowboys, they could end up going until their last game of the season. Because, I mean, it's smooth sailing, easy.
Okay.
So
you heard it here first. Jason predicts.
Whoa,
that Kansas City will go undefeated.
I'm not. As you heard, I'm not on board with Alex Smith. That's why I have him at number 10, even though he probably deserves to be
lower or higher, depending on how you think.
Lower, closer to number 1. Also, I have Carson Wentz, number 16 against the Panthers. Been a stud, been balling, like I said. Just the Panthers have been a decent defense, and with Cam performing like he has been performing, he's actually controlling the ball. The defense is on the field less, and that makes a huge difference for when they're actually on the field. They actually look a ton better.
How pumped are you that he's actually playing well?
I am so pumped. Everybody jumped off the bandwagon. I stayed there with him. Cam, you're my boy. Thank you for rewarding me with 60 points in the past 2 weeks.
Jeez.
Let's move on to running backs. Leonard Fournette, been balling. 2 touchdowns last week, touchdown in every game. Have him at number 3 behind Kareem Hunt and Seth's guy, Todd Gurley.
Gosh.
So, I guess number 9 is where I'm going to start off, and that's DeMarco Murray. Running backs this week was brutal. That's why DeMarco Murray's at number 9. But he's playing the Colts this week, and I could see this as a game where he struggles again because the Colts are actually decent against the run. But you just have to put him at number 9 because everybody else behind him, I don't think can put up a performance worthy of being in the top 10. That's C.J. Anderson versus the Giants, Jordan Howard, Rob Kelly, who actually probably won't play this week, as I mentioned, in the injuries, so I'm going to have to bump him out, maybe move in Samaje Perine into the top 40s as a running back. So Rob Kelly at number 12 is not going to be there. Hopefully by tomorrow I'll have that updated. Javorius Allen, he was kind of a thing, then he dropped off the face of the earth, and now he's a thing again. Had a ton of points last week. Have him at number 15. Easily could see him going higher this week against the Bears. And then number 16, last running back I'm going to mention, is Mike Gillislee versus the Jets. He's done nothing after those first 2 weeks, so done nothing these past 3 weeks. Basically, he hasn't scored a touchdown. Touchdowns make him fantasy relevant, and I think he gets one this week. That's also what Austin thinks because he projected him to get 10-plus points this week. Moving on to wide receivers. Number 1 wide receiver, Antonio Brown. I think that's just a no-brainer. He doesn't need Big Ben to play well. Big Ben threw 5 picks last week, and Antonio Brown still had 15-plus points.
That's insane.
So, I mean, it is what it is. And if it weren't for a holding call, he would have had a touchdown as well, like a 30-yard touchdown. So that would just add it on to the day. Moving up in my rankings, number 17, Devin Funchess, plays this Thursday versus the Eagles. I haven't had him in my top 40 yet this year. I just think since Greg Oden's been out, he's kind of taken that role, that tight end role. He used to be a tight end at Michigan, and they converted him into a wide receiver. He's a big body, great in the red zone, kind of taking over Kelvin Benjamin's role. I would like to see where I have Kelvin Benjamin ranked, but I thought, yeah, I do. I have Devin Funchess ranked at 17 and Kelvin Benjamin ranked at 22. So I think Devin Funchess is more valuable right now than Kelvin Benjamin. He actually scores touchdowns, and he's available in many leagues in the waiver wire. So check your waiver wire. Worth the pickup. I have Will Fuller 29th this week. So borderline wide receiver 3. Not a flex play this week. If you check out the flex rankings at frontlinefantasyfootball.com, he's out of the flex, or he would not end up making your roster. I just am concerned. what did I say? 6 catches in the past 2 weeks with 4 touchdowns. It's a pretty high touchdown rate, and that's obviously not going to keep up. We'll move on to the last one. That'd be tight ends. I'm going to have him number 1 every week, and it's no surprise it's going to be Rob Gronkowski. But at number 2, I have Travis Kelce versus Steelers. Like I mentioned, concussion. Look out for that because he could end up not playing, and then you're going to end up needing somebody. And, I mentioned David Njoku earlier. Zach Miller might be a thing now since Mitch Trubisky hit him with a touchdown. It should have been picked off, but he is targeting Zach Miller in the red zone. Zach Miller's a talented tight end. I have him at 15 this week going against the Ravens. He's worth a pickup to me with all these tight end injuries. Take a look at him. Could be a stud this year. I also have Hunter Henry at 11 versus the Raiders. Seth, do we have music for this?
Oh, sorry, Jason. I'm just in the middle of setting my lineup while I think of it.
Did something I said impact your...
Yeah. Well, Tevin Coleman started it off, and then I just went through, and I'm playing golden receivers this week, so I really want the win. Here's some music, Jason.
Thank you, Seth. I just realized I realized we had it. A little soul music at the beginning.
And then it was gone, and you missed it.
And then Seth gave up on the segment.
He's going to drop some more knowledge on y'all.
So, we'll mention 2 more tight ends. So, Hunter Henry, as I was talking about, Raiders, out of the top 11, starting to pick it up. He was targeted a couple times in a row in the red zone. Seth, why are you staring at me like that?
In the red zone.
Making me feel awkward.
That's the goal.
No, well, it's working. Targeted in the red zone. Easily could add a touchdown. Definitely worth a pickup. George Kittle. That was the tight end.
Kittle, skittle, diddle, fiddle.
A lot of people are saying he could become a thing. Don't buy into it. The Niners can't throw the football. And, he's a tight end that drops a lot of passes. So, don't buy into that. Ed Dixon had 180 receiving yards last game. Looking like a legit replacement for Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen actually texted him and said, bad game. Yeah, funny, I know. So, I not somebody I really want to buy into. I would rather pick up a lot of people before Ed Dixon, but I have him ranked this 13 this week against the Eagles just because the Eagles can't cover anybody. So we'll move on to our last section, and that would be the listener questions. Sorry if I murder your name or your Twitter handle. I believe we have Anthony Galecchio.
Galecchio? Yep, I think I got it right.
Yeah, I think you were close. It's at Ant
Galecchio.
You want to spell it for us, Seth?
Gallichio. Galecchio.
So after Pryor's performance / being targeted more, is he a good start this week versus the 49ers? I'm going to start him this week against the 49ers. I don't really have many more options with Martavis Bryant and Amari Cooper, but honestly, yeah, why not? In 2 out of their 5 games, he's led the team in targets, but he hasn't led the team in targets until last game. So basically, to put my words together, he led the team in targets game 1, did not lead the team in targets 2, 3, 4, and then led the team in targets in week 5.
So based on his prior performance, you'd start him?
I see what you did there, and I'm just going to keep rolling through it. Seth puns, everyone. Round of applause.
After last week, you could make a serious case that Keenum should start the rest of the year.
What?
You could make a serious case that Keenum should start the rest of the year. That's free.
I get it. That one's
free.
Right over my head. Maybe I'll tweet them out so you can hear Seth's puns. No, I won't. All right, next one up. Another one from Ant Galecchio.
All the questions.
Galecchio. Yeah. What he said.
Galecchio.
Which Cardinals receiver should I target the rest of the season? That's obviously between J.J. Nelson, Jaron Brown, and John Brown. I think it's between...
That's confusing.
Jaron and John. Yes. On ESPN, they're both listed as J. Brown, so you have to click on their name before you pick them up.
Terrible.
I think not J. Brown, sorry. Jaron Brown's the way to go. 3rd on the team in targets. 2nd for wide receivers and targets after Fitz. Fitz, Ellington, Jaron Brown with 35. And then John Brown is next. He's fourth in targets with 24 targets, but that's quite a bit less. So Jaron Brown targeted more. I think he's a bigger receiver by far, and he's not as injury prone as John Brown is. I think John Brown has had a Q next to his name his entire career in the NFL. Our third question is from Zims, whatever that. What's
12080. I want to know why that's his handle.
Probably because Zims 12070 was taken. That was even worse than your jokes. Okay.
Tweet back at us why that handle.
Who would you prefer the rest of the season? We have Matt Stafford or Cam Newton?
Stafford. More consistent.
Please.
Yeah.
More consistent?
Yeah. Give me Matthew Stafford. The rest of the year, Matthew Stafford has more points than Cam Newton.
2 bets from Seth.
Yep.
I like it.
Matthew Stafford greater than Cam Newton.
I will take that bet any day, Seth.
Okay.
And here's why. Cam Newton's a stud. Matthew Stafford's not. No, it's offense. The Lions, as of last year, after week 4 last year, when Marvin Jones was going to be a top 5 wide receiver, they switched their offense to a run-heavy team. They want a ball control. That's why the Lions don't score a ton besides week 1 this year. That's why you see them with low scores, and that's what you're going to see the rest of the year. Matthew Stafford is not only going to be
he's a baller.
Worse than Cam Newton, he's
Balls.
probably going to finish out of the top 15 quarterbacks, which is not a quarterback you would want.
Oh, man. So, are you putting that down?
You want to bet me on that too?
Yeah, let's do that. I bet you that he is inside the top 15.
All right, 3 wins for Jason. Any day, easy money. Easy money from Seth. So we'll move on to the 4th question. This is from Lima Ronaldo 1000. Shout out to him. He's a constant follower of the Frontline Fantasy Football account, constantly tweeting questions. We're happy to answer them. Said, should I trade Carlos Hyde and Stefon Diggs to receive Demaryius Thomas and DeMarco Murray? And I said no. Even though Carlos Hyde and DeMarco Murray were in my buy lows, I think Carlos Hyde's going to have the better season than DeMarco Murray. And Stefon Diggs right now is better than Demaryius Thomas. He's surefire number 1 receiver for the Vikings. And Demaryius Thomas isn't the number 1 wide receiver on his own team.
Solid logic.
Yeah. I like the number 1 wide receiver, Seth. I think Emmanuel Sanders ends up with more targets than Demaryius Thomas 3 out of 4 times. So, not a legit stat, just saying. It happens. So that was our show today. That was our first ever solo podcast.
Hey.
Well, okay, solo co-host. We have Seth.
I'm offended.
Technically being the producer and the co-host this year. You did a great job, Seth. You helped me out.
Thank you.
You should check us out on Twitter at FrontlineFF. You should also follow us. You should check out our website, frontlinefantasyfootball.com. We have all of our info there. We put our videos, our links to our social media pages, as well as our Google Play and YouTube page. Check out the YouTube page for videos. Make sure you leave us comments. Leave us reviews on iTunes. We appreciate those. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you listening. Until next time.